What is up, guys? Welcome to another Snapdragons video. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm kind of going to be talking you through how I like to prepare for ProQuest events and kind of my process going through that and going into these events to kind of best set myself up for success, and also important things that I think you might forget if this is your first time going into ProQuest season. So first things first, what are ProQuest events? Obviously, these are qualifiers for the Pro Tour that they are advertising for this season. It is ProQuest Yokohama, so they qualify you for Pro Tour Yokohama in April, I believe 10th to 12th next year, although I could be wrong at those specific dates. So these are essentially the main way that players can qualify for the Pro Tour, other than redeeming a PTI earned from calling Battle Hardened or a previous Pro Tour, for example. So obviously these are tier 2 on the event play structure. These are kind of your pinnacle of local events, as it were, and these are kind of what a lot of players kind of end up preparing for throughout the year. Typically there is about 2 to 3 of these a year, depending on like how the schedule balances out. I think we've had a couple of years with more, a couple of years with less. Depending on how many Pro Tours, like for ProQuest Season 3, there was just that one that year because there was only Pro Tour Baltimore that year. So yeah, currently we're going to have 2 ProQuest Season a year plus a Road to National Season, which kind of at the same tier of event. And these kind of qualify you for the 2 Pro Tours that are going on in a year. Notably, World Championships do not have ProQuest qualifiers, and these kind of rely more on the national season to earn invitations for the World Championships. So why play ProQuest events? Obviously, if you want to play the Pro Tour and you want to kind of ascend to that next level of play, this is the best way of doing it. But in addition to this, these are a great way to kind of get out into your local community and kind of get a feel for competitive play, basically at a more serious level where rules are enforced at a more serious kind of standpoint, compared to events like Skirmish and your local armories, that is. So of course, so why play ProQuest apart from this? Of course, so obviously you're batting for the invite, but on top of that, you're battling for a gold foil. These can be common, majestic, and res. Notable examples of these can be things like weapons like Voltaire and Dawnblade, common and rare equipment or majestic equipment like Skeleta, I believe is one. Snapdragons is obviously a big hit that a lot of people get very excited about, and Rosetta Form, things like that, like kind of not as expensive and kind of cool as your legendary gold foils that you earn at Callings and first for a Battle Hardened, but obviously still really exciting cards to get a hold of and kind of Flesh and Blood's version of a trophy system, as it were. On top of this, there's often additional prizing, like for example, for this season, I believe there's playmats for top 2, which are of the Super Slam Heroes. And on top of this, I believe it is top 4 get cold foil swing bigs, and top 8 get cold foil overcrowded extended arts. So obviously, and I believe there's participation promos as well, but don't quote me on that because I don't know what they are for this season. So quite often you want to get, if you want to get a hold on these cards, this is the best way to do so in a cost-effective manner. But also just kind of test yourself at a better environment and kind of get into competitive play. Obviously, the other ways to get ProQuest is stuff like buying a PTI from players who have one, which is obviously much more expensive, so obviously it's typically a lot easier to go and win a ProQuest and kind of go from that way. So now we've covered some of the reasons why you might want to play a ProQuest, how should you kind of approach going into this event. So on a level 1, you've kind of got to realize that this is going to be held at a higher level of play than you might be used to. Your local scene might be like very friendly and chill like mine, where we kind of just focus on playing good games and nobody really cares about takesies backsies and things like that. Obviously, at a competitive level of event, I believe it's called comp for this game, rules are enforced at a much higher level, which means that stuff like, you know, you need to make the correct play the first time, you need to make the correct play often, and if you're ever unsure, you should be really confident about calling a judge often and frequently. Even if it's for a small thing you might not be sure about, never be afraid to call a judge. They are there to assist rather than anything else. Don't be afraid of calling a judge. just do it. It's always worth doing in the moment. Never feel afraid to call a judge. They are the best help and advisement in the game. So going forward from that, obviously you're playing at a higher level of play. What should you do? First of all, deck selection. I think going into the season, if you look at our ProQuest Yokohama tier list, that's probably a week old by now. That's probably a good guide. Typically, you want to play stronger decks, but you can also just bring your favorites and prove people wrong, and that you can still do well with these decks at these events. Specifically, I think targeting your local metagame is a really good way of going around things and playing decks that are particularly strong into what other people that you expect near you at locals to play. So honestly, I think this is also the best hero to play for Fab in the terms of like what decks you can bring. Because your local meta might not reflect what everyone else is doing in the world. So you can bring kind of unconventional decks that don't normally do well at events like Callings and Pro Tours, for example. These can be things like Riptide or Betsy, for example. These have all scored points at previous ProQuest seasons. So don't feel discouraged to bring these. If you feel confident and you feel like you're making the right choice, then bring those decks. I will also say that typically you want to like pick your stronger decks if you've got multiple, and you want to pick what you think will do well, because it feels much better to get into top 8 and do well and know that you're doing it and that you're trying your hardest. That is just to me personally. You might just enjoy playing your local hero, your favorite hero, and might just have more fun that way. On top of this, so first of all, you've picked your hero, now what? So depending on the tournament organizer's discretion, you're going to need to bring a deck list. This might be a written one, in which case I would recommend using the FabTCG printout deck list form. This has stuff like your gem ID and separates all your cards, so it's easier for your deck to check in case the judges deck check you. We'll cover what that means later. Or the other way is that now through the gem profile system, which you should be signed up for if you've been playing events like Armories and Skirmishes, for example, these are other ways that you can be submit your deck list by the online deck list builder on your Fab profile. If you don't know how to do that, I believe Fab put up a really good website on how to do that and how to convert your Fab array lists into Fab TCG lists to submit through Gem. So I would get a handle on that and like learn that system if you think it's relevant to you. You can always check with your tournament organizer or the judge who's running the event ahead of time about what they're doing. So you've got your deck, you've got your deck list. What are the other things you need to bring? Well, first of all, I want to talk about like level 1 clothing. Dress for the environment you're going to be in, and this is going to vary a lot based on where you are. You know your local area better than me. You know what your local store is like better than me. You might have a store where the owner keeps the air conditioning on 24/7. In that case, dress a little warmer. Make sure that you've got some pants and stuff on. If not, maybe you're in Mexico, Australia, or Southern Europe or something like that, where it's going to be a lot warmer. Make sure you wear something appropriate for the weather, because the worst thing possible, and I will say this multiple times, is going through a day horrible and sweaty or freezing cold and just having a miserable experience because you're not dressed properly. I've had this happen at multiple events where I haven't quite dressed correctly. Calling Auckland just a few months ago, I only had an overshirt with me, and it ended up being freezing cold every morning. So walking to the venue, I really felt that, and I don't think it helped my play in the slightest. So quite a lot of the time I like to bring clothes that I can take off if I need to. Typically just t-shirt, pants, and I like bringing a jacket of some description. Typically I like to bring baggy, kind of warm clothing that I can remove if I need to. A lot of people use hoodies for these. A lot of people I know locally use fleeces. Me personally, I'm using this black workwear jacket, which is really warm when I need it to, but it's also got a lot of space within it, so that if I'm cold, I'm still not sweating it up if I'm sitting down in my chair, thinking really hard about my game. So clothing, that's a really big thing. It really will make the difference between having a good tournament experience and not having a good tournament experience. I've had a lot of bad tournament experiences because of the weather. I have one local store that turns into an absolute oven on hot Australian days, so trust me, make sure you dress appropriately for what you experience your store to be like. Another note on this I will say is also dress in consideration of how you're getting to an event. I've played in multiple countries where just getting to the event is kind of a miserable experience, so by the time I get to the venue I've had I'm freezing cold or I'm like boiling hot and sweaty and gross and I'm just like not having a good time already to start the day, be considerate of that. In calling Singapore 2023, we were like about 45 minutes, I think, from the venue, and it was so hot and humid, and I was just like, even though I was dressed in like just like a shirt and like shorts, I was still like boiling hot. So I can't imagine how bad that would have been if I wore like jeans and like pants or something like that. That's like obviously level one. Another thing I want to kind of cover at ProQuest events is timings, and this is going to tie into a lot to what we're actually packing for the event. ProQuest can go really long. This is something that you might not be used to at like armories or skirmishes, where you're not used to like events with a top cut or events that are more popular with bigger round structures. ProQuest events typically have 5, 6, or 7 rounds depending on the player count, the amount of people who show up to play that ProQuest. This can also vary depending on how many people your store could fit who is running the event. Some stores I know rent out bigger venues for these, so that they have more space. Personally, I think 5 or 6 is typically most common, although I do know that there is some 7 and 8s in some places of the world, like the Philippines, so kind of check what you expect it to be beforehand. So, obviously, based on your player count, so you're going to have that many rounds of Swiss, so I believe it is over 16 is 5 rounds, over 32 is 6 rounds, and over 64 is 7 rounds. It kind of scales like that. This is true of callings as well. This is the exact same system pretty much through the entire way until Pro Tours and World Championships. So essentially what you're going to do is you're going to play X rounds of what's called Swiss, that'd be that 5, 6, 7 I was talking about. You're going to play that many rounds of Swiss, and there's going to be called what's called a cut to top 8. So this happens based on, at the end of what we call the Swiss rounds, which is that 5, 6, 7, you're going to cut to the top 8 players in the standings at the end of those rounds. Fab's primary tiebreaker to kind of determine these 8, if there's multiple people at the same record, is the last round you lost in is more beneficial. So if I went 5-1 and somebody else went 5-1 and I lost in round 6 and they lost in round 5, I'm considered to have done better than them because I lost in a later round. So in terms of tiebreakers, I have stronger ones. If like say we're 8 and 9 on the scoreboard, like there's 7 people who went 6-0 and we're 8 and 9, I would get in and the person who lost in round 5 would not, because they lost earlier than me in the last round. It kind of scales the same with like multiple losses, etc., and just kind of scales down from there. That's how you determine your top 8. Typically, there is other tiebreakers, but that first one will always normally sort things out. Jen will do this automatically for you through the event software, so it will all be done correctly. So we'll kind of, you get into your top 8, and then you play what's called a top 8 elimination. You start with quarterfinals, so 8 will play 1, 7 will play 2, 6 will play, 6 will play 3, 4 will play 5 on the standings. Whoever the higher player is on the seeding will get the choice of first or second in the matchup. That's kind of your reward for doing better in your Swiss rounds. And so essentially those top 4 players will have an advantage going into quarterfinals, and then whoever's left from 1, 2, 3, and 4 will typically have an advantage going into semifinals, which will then be played afterwards. So you play your quarterfinals, whoever wins proceeds, whoever loses, that's the end of their tournament run, they go home from there. So then you play semifinals with the 4 players left. Whoever loses those gets eliminated. Whoever wins those proceeds to the next round. And then whoever wins the finals obviously gets first, and then that's how you determine your winner. It's fairly normal top 8 cut, that's like similar in most games. Yeah, that's kind of how you determine getting to your actual finals game. I've just described a very long process for you and rounds. Some stores do lunch breaks in the middle of the tournament too because it's such a long day. Some stores start early, some stores start late. This will all kind of determine basically whatever happens is very specific to whatever store you're going to for your ProQuest Yokohama event. In addition to this, there is typically a break after the Swiss rounds before the top 8 players start playing. Judges will typically deck check you during this time. So you'll have a bit of a break to go grab food, water, etc. Go to the bathroom. You know, maybe leave, go outside, go get like go take a walk. I know a lot of players who do that. It's typically like a good idea to use that time to take the maximal advantage. So I guess we'll cover what a deck check is now, because you might not know what it is. It's essentially the judge checking to make sure that the cards you brought are the same as your deck list, to make sure that you're not playing any extra cards or doing anything that will give you an advantage. A lot of the time this is done to kind of make sure that you're playing the actual cards matching your deck list, and that your sleeves are all like okay and matching, and there's no discrepancies or anything like that that could lead to a penalty. I will say definitely, on the note of sleeves, what I do whenever I go to a tournament is before round one, I'll like show a judge my sleeves and I'll be like, hey, are these all good? Can you check these? Like, do these have like tons and tons of markings on them? Is there a problem with these? Do I need to replace any of them? Are they okay? And typically, just so that you've got the idea of like, oh, okay, all my sleeves are done. It's just like a 2-second thing. It like really doesn't take them long. Just means that like you can go into the day with like sound peace of mind that if anything comes up, you know there's no stress on you. No one will think it's intentional, because obviously you've gone to a judge beforehand to make sure that your deck is upholding the standards of the game and the rules. From here, so deck checks are kind of done randomly each round. They're typically done on the top tables. Typically this will be like a 5-minute break that like cuts into a game, but basically the judge will just double check your deck, make sure it goes against the deck list, etc., like I've just described, and then they'll give you a deck back and give you a time extension for the round so that you can still play for the proper amount of time. Judges will noticeably be there the whole event, so you know, if you just need to call one, just lift your hand up and say judge. It's a very like quick and easy process. Call them for any little thing. It's always good to make sure. I really can't I cannot kind of express that enough. It's very important that you do that. It'll make your tournament experience much easier. So deck checks. And typically at the end of your Swiss rounds, the judge will deck check everyone's decks, even those they may have already checked. And that's kind of that break period before top 8, where a lot of people will go and get lunch, dinner, probably closer to dinner at that time, go take a break, get some water, etc. So I've described a really long process to you there. It's obviously a very long day out. And one part I want to mention about this is it is such a long day. It really is. Like, I can't express. You are essentially going to a store and spending, like, let's say you play 6 rounds of Swiss, you take just the one break at the end for the deck checks, and then you have untimed top 8. We're talking, like, easily a 10-12 hour day if you, like, get to the finals. Obviously shorter if you don't make top 8. Obviously shorter, you know, your time extends as long as you stay at the tournament. But if you win the whole thing, it can take up to 12 hours. And this is going to bring a really big thing that I would like to talk about. Treat yourself well going into this event. I'm talking, I want you in bed early the night before, no drinking. Typically I uphold those two pretty well. Make sure you're like taking the maximum amount of time that you need before the tournament. Typically I'll wake up, if I have an hour, half an hour travel time into the event. I like to get there at least 30 minutes early, probably close to 45. If I need to, I'll just go find coffee or something nearby. I'll typically wake up at least like 2 hours before the event, and just kind of like, you know, go through my normal daily routine and then go to the tournament. You want to make sure that you're like proper awake for the start of round 1. And yeah, that's kind of, I would highly recommend making sure that you get up early. Just in case there's any miscommunications with times, etc. Double checking your times ahead of time is sometimes a really good idea. So yeah, make sure you like, I think eating breakfast is something that a lot of players, including myself, like traditionally have skipped. I'd say this is a bad idea. You don't want to be fasting during the day because you will hit the later rounds and you will feel exhausted. Your brain runs on energy, you need to feed it. This is a very important thing. I think eating a medium breakfast, you don't want to go too hard and eat like a full English or something the day before the morning of the event, because then you'll feel kind of sluggish and like a little bit drained during your early rounds, even though you might have more energy later on. I think typically you want to stick to something a little bit more wholesome. I typically eat like a lot of fruit for breakfast the day of the tournament. A lot of people, and I'll have a coffee typically to make sure I'm definitely awake. A lot of people I know will eat kind of like oats and stuff like that are kind of just like long burn clean fuels that'll keep you awake during the day. I will say that like the difference between eating like clean and eating dirty on like a tournament day, you'd be surprised by how much difference it makes. I know a lot of, which brings me to snacks. I really recommend packing snacks. It like can make your day just so much better. I know one of my friends, he packs like a giant bag of carrots and just like hands them out to people, and he'll eat like 4 carrots for a day, which are like just maddening, but they're full of water and they're also like just good energy. Snickers are something that I use and quite a few local players to me use. Not excessively high in sugar, but they also have those nuts that are full of protein in them that will kind of keep you going throughout the day. And you kind of want to don't just bring one snack, bring like 2 or 3, because like, you know, if it's a 12-hour day, you're going to want that extra time. A lot of stores will sell snacks for this example, and will sell other drinks. I would recommend to stay away from energy drinks, or really any kind of like processed caffeine or sugar. I think like lower off things that are a bit weaker, like Coke, is like each to their own. I've typically played more with water nowadays because I find it makes the day easier. I will say definitely pack your own water. I always bring a water bottle with me. It makes a big difference. Like these all sound like such tedious like mum things to say, but the difference in your tournament day that it makes, you're fighting a downhill battle instead of an uphill one sometimes. Like your brain needs energy to like be playing a pretty hard game for that long period of time. So I'd recommend like sticking to all those ideas. Some people I know bring travel nuts, which like to each their own, I guess. Like just bring like a snack that's like very protein filled and very clean. Nothing with like super excessive caffeine or sugar, because then you'll end up burning out at some point. You definitely want to stick to like that more kind of like slow burn, just get you through the day slowly. It's a marathon, not a sprint type of energy. Except for when we get to top 8. When we get to top 8, it's a completely different conversation on what I'll advise. When you get to top 8, this is typically the period in time where I'll go and find like sources of more dirty caffeine, like Coke Zero, coffee if there's like a decent one available. I have had a Red Bull or 2 if I'm really tired, like before a top 8. And the purpose of this is if you get to your top 8 game, your pricing is typically going to increase every game you win, but also you can't play your semifinals and finals unless you win your quarterfinals. So you kind of like that. This is kind of where we were talking about this being a marathon, not a sprint. I think top 8 is like closer to a sprint, honestly, because it's a bit of a, you need to be full pace the whole time. You need to be playing at your best level. You're going to be playing against like the best players in your local event. Typically, this is where I'll like employ a lot more of those like kind of like I need my energy now. Like I'll drink a lot of water. I'll like eat a lot more food. A lot of people use that before top 8 break to kind of get something to eat properly, like a dinner or something like that. If you have like teammates or friends who can kind of support you and hook you up with food, I find that's extremely helpful. The difference that makes is a bit of a day maker, honestly. So that's kind of what I would do and kind of cover sustenance for the day. Like I said, bring a water bottle, bring 2 to 3 like snack kind of portions throughout the day, and then typically stay off anything dirty until kind of that 6 or 7 p.m. Just before top 8 kind of period, when you kind of want to like send the pedal to the metal and kind of just like turn yourself into like whatever gives you the best energy to get through your last 3 rounds, because that really is the most important thing. Those last 3 rounds, I want to talk about something else in addition. During your Swiss, you should be playing at a pace that's a bit more enforced. You want to like kind of make sure that you're playing at a reasonable pace where you are making the best decision, but also like at a reasonable pace to not hit time. Going to draws in tournaments like these is much harder because you will obviously take a draw, and that is counted as a loss in tiebreakers for this game. And if you take a draw, it makes it so much harder to make top 8 of these events. So I will say sometimes it's not about making the correct choice every single turn. It's about making the correct choice in the correct amount of time available. Now, what I will say is that for top 8, this goes completely the inverse. During top 8, your games are on time. You have as long as you want to make your decisions. Obviously, don't take like 20 minutes to make like a single decision on to become the Arc Knight. Like, but you can take a lot more time. You will notice a lot of people on stream doing this, particularly in the FabTCG streams. You will see people taking their time a bit more, making sure that they're making the correct idea. What I will say is this is a double-edged sword, because if you are at the end of the day and you are running out of energy, you can also just like be making the wrong decisions because you're spending too long thinking about it and you're just like overthinking ideas. So I will say that typically you want to maintain like a similar pace of play, but slow it down a little bit during top 8. Even though that might sound kind of obvious, I think it's actually something that will really help. We've covered tournament structure, we've covered through the day, we've covered what to eat and stuff. What do you bring with you? Typically what I end up doing is I'm going to run you through the checklist, kind of starting at the outer layer and going inwards from there. Primary layer, your bag. What you carry with you does matter. I want to pack as light as possible. I don't want to be taking extra weight with me if I can avoid it, because if you're carrying your bag in between rounds, it can really add up. If you're sitting in a chair all day, that can be really bad for your shoulder blades, and you can get to the top 8 and just like, you're getting that card player hunch kind of in, and that can really like make things hard to play. Tons of bags. I have 2 clear front runners I'll recommend, and they represent 2 different archetypes of bags that I'll really represent. Typically, people use backpacks of some description, or I've seen a lot of tote bags recently. These are both pretty good options that I will say do the job pretty well. These are 2 personal options that I think really excel at these, and I would highly recommend these based on kind of just my own experience in the last, I think I've had both for about 6 months to a year now. The first one I'm going to recommend is the North Face black box or yellow box, basically any kind of square-shaped freestanding backpack. When you go to a tournament, there is not always enough space on the table. It can be really annoying, and it's just a bit of a day ruiner when it is. I've had like a lot of tournaments, like I've noticed the general vibe is very much related to how much table space there is. Having not enough can be a real nightmare, because obviously you need to put a lot of things down, like your playmat, your deck, your life counter, your dice, etc. So not having enough table space is a real like pain in the ass. Freestanding backpacks like this, as you can see, it's got that flat base and that kind of like square top. It means that like quite frequently I will like put it down on the ground like this, and I will store stuff like anything spare, like water, my phone, etc. on this like freestanding platform it creates at the top. The amount of difference that makes during like a day to just like have like a little place that you can put it. If you're really cramped up, I quite frequently will put it in between my legs while I'm sitting down and have like that little freestanding platform underneath. This might not be an issue for you, but for those who it will be an issue for, it really does just make the day different. This one in particular is extremely light. I know they're on the pricier side, but I would really say they're worth it. There's at least one other player I know locally who uses these. I think they're a really good investment personally. In terms of this bag specifically, you've got a side swipper for stuff like your passport if you're traveling for a tournament, etc. You've got like a top compartment that can fit like things like keys, etc. Headphones, because a lot of people bring those to tournaments. Like kind of stuff like that, keep them separate from the rest of your bag, and then the inside is just a flat square. These are really good because you can like put a binder in the back and then just fill it up to the top with deck boxes if you like need to bring that many. A lot of people I know bring like multiple decks to a tournament. These are really good for that, and I will say that's really good. The other one I would really recommend is the Chrome Industries Cadet bag. This looks tiny, and it's absolutely minuscule, but it's like kind of perfect for tournaments, and I think I know at least like 6 other people who have these locally to me. They're really good. They're not as pricey as the other one, and they're also like, but obviously there's a lot of space to them and a lot less material. Me personally, I've got mine customized with like charms and stuff at the end. And the reason these are really good is because they're a sling bag, but they're extremely light on material. But they just about fit everything that you might need for a tournament if you're really just packing light, like I said. Typically, I can fit like any deck boxes I need, my playmat, a life counter, and then anything peripheral like pieces of paper, etc. can go in this front pocket. I can't sing this bag's praise enough. It makes your day much better. Other things that you should bring, we already covered bringing a water bottle and snacks. Those are extremely important. Make sure you pack those. And this is going to be a slept one and a bit of an underrated one. Bring deodorant. it's a long, sweaty day. Like, card game players sweat while they play. You're thinking really hard about something, you're playing intensely, you're deep in the zone, you are going to sweat, especially if it's a 12-hour day. Bring deodorant, it's good for everybody. A lot of players I know will bring these, and even when I forget, I always know that I have someone nearby that I can ask for one. Bring deodorant. I can't emphasize this enough. And offer it to other people if you notice that it's getting to be like a bit of a hot, sweaty, miserable day. It's not really like a personal it's not like a mean thing. It's just like a let's make the whole community better and like have a better time playing this tournament together. So yeah. Next thing that I will say that is like kind of non-card related. LifePad. At ProQuest events, you're kind of expected not to use digital devices. I know a lot of people still do, but it may not be allowed by your judge at your local store. I think rules as written, you're not really meant to. You're definitely not allowed to at things like Pro Tours and World Championships and Day 2 of callings. So if you want to practice for events like these, pen and paper. I use this collapsible pen that can actually fit in my dice tray. I find that's really helpful. And then just little, not even A5, like A6, something like that, little life pad, fill that out. And then you've also got a record of what kind of happened in your games and you can kind of refer back to it. One reason that this is particularly like important is that like if a judge is looking at your life pad and you're trying to like rewind something, etc., they can see the difference in life total changes. They can work out what happened backwards from there. So it's really important that you use these responsibly. Make sure your handwriting's nice and clear and distinct. At the start of every round, I write down my opponent's name, what they're playing, and what round it is, so that like it's very clear what game I'm playing. It's very clear that the life total underneath is the one that we're playing for the actual game itself. Dragon Shield makes like these really compact ones that are really good. I think I have one or two over here. These are really good if you can get them and the refills for them. I know they've been a little hard to get lately, for me at least. Notably, the tournament policy that specifies you can't use like phones and digital note keeping and stuff like that extends to things like these boogie board devices. I think this is just called like an ultimate guard life counter or something like that. These actually technically extend to these for some reason. I think it's because of the fact that they can easily be like erased, so then you can't like back check things. And I think just stick to pen and paper. I know a lot of people don't, but just stick to it. It's a really good habit to get into. I've actually started like doing that at locals, because if I don't do it at locals, I'll like be out of practice by the time I get to like an event that's more serious. So I think it's a really good idea to get those pen and paper going. Now, playmat. A lot of people use playmat tubes to protect their like rare or collectible playmats. I don't think it's really necessary, but you know, you do you. Obviously, I'm trying to travel as light as possible to kind of reduce the load if I'm playing a full day, so I won't typically bring one, but if you do, it's always something to remember packing. Nothing worse than playing on like a blank table for a full day. So playmat, don't forget it. It's always just like a bit of a rough day when you forget one. On top of that, so I like bringing one spare box with things like spare sleeves and a draft kit in it. What I mean by a draft kit is 30 empty sleeves, etc. I've noticed that a lot of these events, there's quite, at least near me, there's drafts going on in the background for like whatever set is currently in vogue, just from those that maybe dropped early, for example. Even after like the Swiss is done, sometimes because the store's still open, people will just draft there for fun. It's a good experience. I recommend participating in it if you're the kind of person to enjoy doing that. Having a box with your spare sleeves for your CC deck and then also your draft kit in it is just like an extra thing. Notably, there's a tournament policy about keeping extra cards in your deck box that do not belong to your deck or are promotional cards given out at the event. So say like whatever participation promo you got, that's like completely fine to keep in your normal deck box. But other things like random cards you like picked up for another deck or something like that, those typically you need to store those somewhere else, because obviously if a judge comes over and like does the deck check, how do they know that they're like not playing like 85 cards or something like that and trying to gain an advantage that way? Seems like a little harsh, but again, you just want to adhere to all rules as closely as possible. So I like taking an extra deck box of some description that's like a smaller one, like the small Sidewinder ones, or even just like a black plasticky one that like every brand knows, you know, the small tiny ones forget what they're called exactly. Which brings us to the last item that I think you really need to bring, which is, of course, your deck. And what I will say is you want your deck, but you also want it to be freshly sleeved, but not too freshly. You do not want to sleeve up the morning of the tournament. Me and a lot of other people I know do this quite often, and it is an absolute nightmare when you've got new sleeves and then you're knocking things over during the tournament, and that's just a bad time. I typically, my like little balance for it is I like to sleeve up with new sleeves for my CC deck the day like at an armory in the few days before the tournament. Play like a couple of games with it, make sure it's all seated together because I double sleeve my decks to kind of make sure the air's out of it. And by doing that, you kind of just reduce the risk of the cards being too new and kind of slippy. And then you've still obviously got your spare sleeves in your box in case any of them break during that tournament, or if a judge that you go up to at the start says anything's wrong with them. There's a lot of different deck boxes available. Me personally, I use my World Championships deck box because I just think it's really cool for everything. But these are, in terms of like actually like quality and like build, these are identical to the ones made by I believe it's GM. I think it's like Gem deck boxes or something on Twitter. He does a lot of like Pokemon themed ones and stuff, but they all kind of function the same way. You have your two compartments, and then like a fold down dice tray, and then like a lid that just folds over everything. Make sure you bring dice. Personally, I use this set by, I believe it's One Collectibles in Singapore, shout out them. Bring any dice you might need. Typically, I like having a deck box with multiple compartments so that I can like separate out my sideboard and tokens and hero. But you know, that's all personal preference. If I had to pick a deck box that's probably available at your local LGS, these Game Genic kind of flip and tray style ones are really good. I found the build quality to be really solid. If I'm ever bringing a second deck, like it's a split format event that might have LL with it, like Pro Tours do, highly recommend these. You've got your tray up the top, and then you've got your main compartment with all the space for it. And this extends to things like the flip and tray range by Ultimate Guard, and don't know what these ones are called, and then I think there's one other brand that makes a very similar product. And make sure you bring something that has enough space for all your cards sleeved, including all your tokens and stuff. I have made that mistake before. It's annoying. It's always just like annoying when you just like don't bring enough space for the cards that you've brought. So yeah. We kind of covered how to dress, what to bring, tournament structure, how to kind of go through the day, what to pack. Oh, the most important thing. Have fun at your events, guys. Like, these are the best opportunities to play, like, competitive flesh and blood in your local environments. Like, I think these are some of the biggest community events quite frequently. Like, you'll often see things like charity side things going on, or side events like the draft ones I mentioned earlier. These are, like, the opportunities to test your mettle against your opponents. Like, this is kind of where, like, grudges get formed, or like rivalries kind of start. This really is like the grassroots of competitive play. So I will say, like, go out there, have fun, and enjoy things with your local community. And like, if you want to take yourself seriously, do it seriously and like be competitive. But remember to have fun, and remember to smile through your games. And like, this is a weird advice, but like, if you're ever like feeling like you're too deep into it, or you're like trying too hard, and you're like need to like kind of chill out a little bit and like enjoy it, just literally just smile and like just take a second to take a breather. Like, the physical act of smiling really helps. Just break up your kind of long grindy games like those assassin mirrors or warrior into anything, etc., and just kind of take a break. You know, it's important to realize that you're doing this for fun, and just make sure that you're enjoying yourself throughout the day. So yeah, I think that just about covers everything that I would recommend going into your ProQuest events. If you want advice on what deck to pick, I gave my tier list a few weeks ago. I think the only things that I would change from that list now that we've seen results from calling Shizuoka is essentially, I think Gravy is much better than we all thought he was. I think we all thought he was a little bit dead, but I think he's actually much closer to the top of A tier or S tier in that tier list. I will say that Gravy is much better than I thought he was. The deck is definitely not dead. If you think you can play at a high level, I think it's a very reasonable choice, and I think it's much more respectable than I probably put it in that video. I think KO is still a very reasonable choice as well. I think it is still probably in that A, S, B best deck in format tier. I will say the deck is surprisingly hard to play, but it is also just like a really good deck. And we maybe saw some of its counters be more prevalent at calling Shizuoka that may have affected its performance. But most of all, just bring the deck that you think is correct for your local metagame. That is ultimately like, that like supersedes every tier list you'll see from every YouTuber. Bring the deck that you think will do well into your local metagame. If you like really love playing Dory Dawnblade, and everyone around you plays Ninja, play Dory Dawnblade and just like get there. Like ultimately, like a tier list online like ours is not going to tell you what is actually best for your meta. That's for you to determine. But what you can do is rely on the knowledge you've gained at your armories and your skirmishes, and play what you enjoy and also what you think will do as best as possible. Notably, a few things I'd like to preface. After your ProQuest, what kind of happens, and I think a lot of people don't talk about. It can have been like a very long day. You will feel tired. Make sure that you're kind of like getting home in a safe way. If you're like really tired, maybe take a rest for a bit, get some food or something before you drive home. You know, don't want to have any accidents, etc. I think also it's important to kind of like de-stress after a tournament. I know a lot of people who go get some drinks afterwards, for example, or just go play with like the pets. I'm one of those. If you have a double weekend, like a Saturday, Sunday, like you've got 2 ProQuest events that weekend. What I will say is like I'll finish the Saturday event, I will go straight home, and I will obviously if I didn't get first place, because if you get first, you're not allowed to play anything else. Go home, spend time with like your animal, your pets, make yourself like a proper meal that you enjoy, and then just kind of get to bed early and just like get ready to repeat itself again. Repair any broken sleeves. Think back on your deck list while you're kind of making dinner, spend time with your loved ones, just kind of like de-stress after a long day. I've definitely had like a couple of tournament weekends where I've like gone back to back and I've just been like so exhausted during the second day that I haven't been able to focus because I didn't take that time to de-stress. So what I will say is, yeah, just make sure you take that time to de-stress after a tournament. If you don't have a tournament the next day, obviously I think you should kind of wait until the next day to kind of break down your deck and like anything you could have done better throughout the day. I think reflection is like the #1 thing that makes you get better as a player. Make sure you like sit down and think about, oh, I lost this game, where could I have done better? Or like, oh, I had this happen during this game and it made it like a lot harder for me to win. Reflect back on those moments and think, is there anything better I could have done? And occasionally you'll go to an event and you'll just get like trounced. You'll go like 1-5, you'll be like, oh man, I had a really rough day. What went wrong? And in moments like that, I think, even if it does feel like, oh, I got unlucky, look for things outside of it. Like, did I sleep correctly before the event? Did I eat like well for the event? Did I make sure I was hydrated? Did I have like headaches the whole day? And also, #1 thing, did I bring the right deck for the room? That is like always the question I'm asking after every event. Did I bring the right deck for the room? Was I like correctly positioned for the room I was in? And this applies to stuff like callings with Pro Tools, etc. Like, I think ultimately, if you prepare well, you know your deck, and you know that you brought the right deck, and maybe you just got a bit unlucky. I think it's perfectly fine. You can just walk away from the experience knowing you did everything you could, and that you did well. And don't be disappointed in yourself if you like don't see the performance you want at your first few events. These are hard events. I mean, we're in ProQuest Season 6 now. Like, there'll be people around you who've been playing ProQuest since Season 1. I've been playing since Season 1, and it's like, it's a tough thing to like win a ProQuest or even come in the top 8, like, especially if you have like a very established local scene. But what I will say is like, keep at it, because that's kind of how you get better. Steel sharpens steel. Like, playing these games, these serious events that are not like your armories, is how you get better at the game. And kind of just getting better at like not just the game itself, but the tournament process, you know, all those things like sleeping, eating correctly, the mentality that like you approach your games and how you reflect afterwards. These are all like the things that like build good players and will lead you to like actually truly improving at the game rather than just getting lucky. And that's how you build consistent success in the long term. And I think also just really building that habit of having fun. I can't like stress that enough. Like, it can be very easy to like have a bad day and like feel like you got unlucky. You've had into 3 KOs while playing Warrior, etc. But like in reality, like you're here to have fun. whether that's like having fun from competing or just having fun like playing your favorite character to the best success you can manage. I think these are all like, just remember to have fun. Like it's a really good, it's just always a good time out and a good experience to have with all of your local community mates. So yeah, I wish you the best of luck at your ProQuest events for this season. Please give us a subscribe and like if you enjoyed our content. We have 2 entire seasons of our gameplay series Clash, and a 3rd one coming soon. On top of that, we have our ProQuest tier list video if you're unsure what to play, and then lots of other videos on the channel. We will have lots of content coming up soon. If you want to say hi to us at any events, me personally, I'm going to be at Calling Sydney, but the rest of the team will be at World Championships Philadelphia, so get excited for that one. And yeah, thanks for watching.